This week on Focus on Photography, we take a look at AB5. What is that? Better yet, we're going to just talk about what to do to get off to a good start in 2020. Focus on Photography is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they do by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Focus on Photography, Episode 9, recorded Thursday, January 2nd, 2020. Make the shift. This is Focus on Photography here at twit.tv, LastPass Studios, that is. 2020, first episode of the year, folks. This is, this is bigger than I realized, Mr. Woolsey.
All of a sudden, the reality just popped
in. It just hit now. Man, oh man. Good to see you, my man. I am Aunt Pruitt. This is Mr. Michael Woolsey here, co-host here of Focus on Photography. Folks, welcome to the show. Welcome to another year. Welcome to another great opportunity to get out there and create some content and leave your mark and leave a positive mark at that. And just go ahead and do what we do as content creators, man. How you doing, man?
Feeling good. I'm glad it's the new year. Man, 2020.
Had a good time off? Because we took some time off of that last show.
Shot a bit and kind of made some stories, I think.
I got to tell you, I watch your Instagram feed, and it's always with envy because you have such beautiful images. You have such beautiful stories, and it's just going beyond the technical side of it. Just looking at your images, I can tell when it's your feed. You know what I'm saying? When I'm scrolling through, and I have envy of you because I don't have that particular style per se. Because I've done so much from a journalistic standpoint.
Oh, right.
You know, but you have a style. Like when Mr. Brian Manier was on, I can always tell when I'm looking at a Brian Manier shot, or when Miss Karen Hutton, I can always tell when I'm looking at a Karen Hutton shot. And now I'm finding that with you, if I'm scrolling through and I see a certain aesthetic, I can just take a guess. Is that Wools? Yep. That says, "Hey, Wools" on Instagram.
Isn't that called branding?
That is branding. That is branding. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, folks, this is 2020, Focus on Photography, the outstanding podcast we like to do here at twit.tv, where we'll talk a little bit about some of the news and rumors in the world of photography, just a little bit. But then we'll just sit around these mics and just chit chat about some real world stuff that we as content creators are dealing with or are going through, and just share our experiences with you. And every now and then we're going to have some guests on and bring them into the fold and have them a part of the conversation. We don't do interviews on here. This isn't the news.
No, I've been loving our guests.
You know, this is just, we're going to sit down and we're going to pick their brains and let them share some of their insight and give you some information that can help make you a better content creator, whether it's photography or videography or graphic designer, what have you. And we're just going to keep pushing through with that, and stay tuned for the coming episodes where we'll have more guests in here. But this week, we're going to start out with just Wools and I, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to hop into this week's news and rumors and stuff. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So first and foremost, man, this one hit me a little bit close to my heart. Headline: the National Press Photographers Association has filed a suit against the state of California. What am I talking about? Well, the people here in California, we've been hearing about this bill AB5, and I know that sounds like some weird code or what have you, but what it deals with is I guess the best way I could put it is it targeted the folks like Uber and Lyft to help get them in line with handling independent contractors versus handling employees. And we've talked about this a little bit on some of our other shows on the network, like on This Week in Google, This Week in Tech. And it gets a little bit sensitive because you look at it from a business owner standpoint, and then you look at it from an independent contractor standpoint. Okay, so from a business standpoint, you don't necessarily want to spend $1 gazillion on FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and medical plans and things like that if you don't have to. So you go out and you hire independent contractors. Cool. You're saving your business a little bit of money. All right. From the independent contractor standpoint, you are thinking, hey, I'm a mercenary. I can go and work for TWiT today, and then tomorrow I can go and work for NBC and just keep doing what I do. And I'm not tied down to anybody as long as they're giving me the contract to produce some work and art. That's what I'm going to do. Right. You know, it's so you have a couple different spectrums here, but this is getting a little bit deeper when you look at from a photography standpoint. Right now, it is saying that you're stuck with 35 submissions for the year as an independent contractor when you're dealing with a particular client. Right. So it's a little bit different for you versus me. And I wanted to pick your brain about it because you're here in the state of California doing this every single day. What are your thoughts on just that line right there? You're limited to 35 submissions or assignments per year for any single client.
I think if you're a journalist, or a writer, or somebody who's responding to a client such as Press Democrat, local paper or whatever, that would be a huge issue. Right. If you're freelance, have a little bit more clients, it would not affect me too much. However, I think this bill has actually it was not well thought out at the end. No. Yeah. there's a couple holes in it. Yeah, it's and I'm surprised that Gavin Newsom actually signed it. Yeah. But however, I think it just is it's got the tentacles into all these different areas where I don't think it's applied. It should be applied. And the truckers actually just have a injunction halting that in regards to affecting them.
All right, and that's essentially what the National Press Photographers Association has done too. Is they filed an injunction. I believe they did this back on like the 20th. Yeah, December 20th. So this is somewhat old news, but it's still pretty big news. When I thought about this, it reminded me of when I accepted my position here at TWiT. Okay. And that was back late in the summer of 2019. And during that time, I was doing my IT work full time, and then I was doing a lot of freelance stuff. And some of that freelance stuff was writing and shooting photos for CBS Interactive and TechRepublic.com. TechRepublic hey, congratulations on the new gig. We're looking forward to working with you in the future. Oh, wait a minute. You're going to California. Oh, okay. They stopped me and said, you're going to California. And they said, actually, let's just call. So they called me up and they told me about this. I didn't know any of this was going on. Right. And it made it a little bit difficult because I still wanted that freedom to be able to come here and do what I do at TWiT for TWiT and continue to grow this brand in here. But every now and then I'd like to be able to freelance some stuff and do some stuff on the side because that's my heart. That's what we do. Right. And with it being in California, and all I was doing essentially was writing. There was a lot more writing than photography. And we had to think through this thing to see how could we make this work. And CBS Interactive, I give them credit. They say, hey, we'll work with you. We'll make you a W-2, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to be a W-2 employee. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be tied down that way. Right. And it hurt my heart a little bit because that meant I was losing some money. I was losing some income. Right. Losing a lot of nice, easy income at that. You know, so before I even got to California, this stuff was already hitting me in the face. And I'm thinking, what is going through the minds of the people that are already here and what they're doing? Specifically, there's a detail that says, okay, look, you can be an independent contractor, but you cannot be an independent contractor that does for a client that pretty much does the same thing that you do. For example, if I am a writer, I can't be an independent contractor for another website because that's what they do. They write. They need to hire me as a full-time writer. And if it was a photography studio or whatever, where the photography studio goes around and does jobs all around Petaluma in the Bay Area or whatever, they can't hire me as a full-time photographer. They can hire me as a full-time photographer, but they can't hire me as a hired gun, if you will.
Right.
Because that's what we do. That's our sole responsibility, sole job. So it's got a couple blurred lines in there, and then you have all these couple exceptions. You know, you sent me another link where it mentioned the exceptions for like doctors,
and
lawyers,
realtors.
But then there was a line that I saw in there that says creative artists, but it didn't specify any more after that. It just said creative artists. So I'm thinking a creative artist is a photographer, sculptor, painter,
or a cartoonist who actually works with papers and whatnot.
So where are we drawing the line? It's such a mess right now. I would imagine
that there's going to be some legal issues coming up, and already are. But
it's already rolling. It's already rolling, and we knew this was coming for January, and a lot of people were on edge, and it's unfortunate that this is going to have to take a little bit of time and cause a little bit of stress, and you're going to see a lot more lawyer news and lawyer talk, and but it is what it is. We need to get this stuff straightened out. Don't get me wrong. I see it on both sides of the spectrum. I see it as the business owner, and I see it as the independent contractor, because there are some independent contractors that says, you know what, I wish I could be a W-2 employee because I need health care.
Right, exactly right. And that's where the Uber drivers and that industry really needs to be regulated a little bit better.
I see it from both sides. And if I was running a small business, I mean, I'm essentially an LLC, you know, and if I had a couple other staff or what have you, that's the kind of stuff that I would have to look into as far as overhead, the cost. You know, what is it going to cost me to pay my staff? Is it going to cost me more to pay them as a W-2, where I have to file my quarterly 941 reports and things of that nature, or can I just have them be independent contractors? What's it going to be? What's going to be in my best interest? And from my standpoint, ICs would have been in my best interest. You know, so I don't know.
It's a big one, man. And I think it just needs to be ironed out a little bit more, and it will be. It's just unfortunately that
it's a big mess over here because of, you know, this being Silicon Valley, and you deal with a lot of freelancers in the tech space, whether it's people writing code, whether it's the journalists, especially on the journalistic side. I'm going to be going to CES next week, and there's going to be a ton of journalists there. That's why I'm going, and I cannot wait to dig in their brains and ask them, hey, what are your thoughts? What is your position? I'm curious to see if people have actually gotten hired on as full-time, or if they're just trying to wait it out to see what's going to happen.
But can you work in another state and still work for the company in the in
Tried that too, my friend, because as I said, I have an LLC. My LLC is up until April still registered in North Carolina. We tried to just go under that. Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Nope. Lawyers looked at it. Nope. Can't do it. Again, to CBS Interactive's credit, they tried to make this work for me. You know, I'm not here to badmouth them. What I'm badmouthing is the fact that I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of money dealing with this, and it didn't really necessarily have to be, but hey, this stuff can be worked out, and eventually everybody's going to be able to win, but we shall see.
Right.
We shall see. But yeah, I wanted to pick your brain on that because I know you are always on the grind here locally.
Yes, but not in,
you know.
You know, people do want, you know, people choose to have some form of freedom.
Right.
And, you know, if they want to go independent or freelance, they should have the right to do so.
Right.
And not feel obligated to go in a different direction.
My computer keeps beeping at me. I'm sorry, folks. I thought I muted that speaker. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way because that's some of the big part to start 2020. It's an unfortunate part in my opinion, but we shall see. We shall move on.
And there's always two sides to the story.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. It is. Now, next up, let's take a look at our folks at DJI. DJI is very, very popular in the filming industry with, it started out pretty big with drones and gimbals for people on movie sets and having these big old huge rigs to stabilize the cameras. Beautiful technology, beautiful work.
Super good.
And when I saw this article, the first thing that came to my mind was there was some little kid at heart that said, you know what, I really wish I could do this. And what I'm talking about is DJI has now put a patent out there for remote control vehicles that have cameras attached to them.
Almost like a robot.
So you basically think of a rover, like the Mars rover. So it's not a full-size car, but it's still, that seems like it'll be a pretty neat toy to play around with.
I know my kids love it.
And I laughed when I saw it because my son and we have just regular RC cars, standard 12-inch remote control cars. And we have always tried to figure out a way to strap our phones to the top of them, action cams to the top of them, because we just want to get that point of view. We want to see how that footage looks from a much lower angle. We want to see how that footage looks with just speed and going through terrain. And when you watch movies are trying to replicate that same type of look and feel by changing those angles, to something lower and giving you more of a immersive feel. And having something like this would be perfect for that. I got to give DJI credit because first and foremost, they have some of the best technology from a stabilization standpoint. More details about this rover mentions that the wheels on it are 360 degrees. So it's not just a standard car, if you will, where you have only two wheels that turn direction, but these are all four wheels are going to go 360 degrees. So it's almost like a cart,
right?
If you will.
That's kind of awesome though. I need to think about it. But the thing is, I was looking at it and was thinking, because the blueprint's on it, right?
Right.
Very intricate.
And we'll put links to it in the show notes that shows the actual diagram of what they're proposing and in this patent. It's a pretty fascinating, I hate saying toy, but it does remind me of my days of remote control toys.
I was wondering the speed of it though. And will the arms go up and down and they kind of
in the design, it does have options for an arm that articulates up and down and rotates. So, you're getting full control of this camera, on this gimbal, not to mention the fact that it's stabilized.
But the Ronin S, you can almost do the same thing.
But that's handheld, though.
Right, but you have a little bit more, and you could go with the speed of the person walking, if they're kind of picking up pace or whatever, or go up. I feel like it would be a little bit limited.
So, all right. So you think having a Ronin in hand, walking next to your actor or subject or what have you, would have less limitations than a cart going beside the actors?
No, the cart would have less limitations.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. No.
Okay. We are on the same page.
No,
okay, good.
Yeah. No.
Because I think it opened us with a lot more doors where you can go somewhere where it's not as easy for a human to walk with a camera, And then again, just the whole aspect of being low angle. When you have your gimbals, you have the additional monitor connected to your camera because you can't see your camera when it's that low.
Right.
But having something robotic and a heads-up display already, you're 50 feet away. It just seems so much more easier, and I'm looking forward to it. There's also a Chinese site that mentions the patent. I'll link to that as well. That gives you a lot of details, and it sounds like this is really, really going to happen. So kudos to you, DJI. I've had my issues with you in the past, but I like that idea.
However, I did like the second item that was on the that sheet, which was actually a handheld, almost like a Ronin M.
Right.
But it's not. But I did like. I thought that was very interesting.
What do you like about it?
Well, for one, you're able to hold the the camera differently.
Different grip.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that seems a little bit more agile. Mm. And you're able to kind of go, this is not too big.
Right. And see, that's what I've always heard with some of my other filmmaker friends, they would battle with ergonomics on gimbals.
Right.
You know, in DJI in June, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I can never say it right. ZHYIUN, June.
Okay.
They also make gimbals, and both of those companies have been trying to find a way to make it more of an ergonomic advantage for filmmakers out there, because holding we can just say an A7 III, you know, it's not a large camera, but then you put a G Master lens on it, it's a little bit heavier.
Right. And
then you have the gimbal itself, which is a couple pounds at the most, maybe 2 pounds tops.
The S is actually gets to be heavy.
You know, and then after a while, you're going to get some fatigue,
right?
Just trying to hold those things, because of how the gimbals are more like a wand, you know, versus having extra handles. And they'll make attachments to give you handles on the side, but even still, those handles that you see nowadays, they're not that ergonomically sound.
No.
You know, unless you get the huge Movi, which brings another challenge. Nobody wants that huge Movi rig to try to operate it.
Yeah, but man, it turns out some good work.
It does.
If you have the right backpack, you know.
But it costs a lot of money for people to do that.
That's why you lease them.
Right. Yeah. Right. I'm again, kudos DJI. I'm just curious to see how fast we can get this stuff out there into production, because it looks like they are quite serious about it and thought it through, and we can see it coming up any day now. All right, so let's move on. I wanted to get a little bit lighter and get away from news and rumors, and just take a look at getting a good start on your year. I don't care if you're a content creator or not. Let's just look at getting a good start on the year, and this is that time of New Year's resolutions.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think I've done resolutions in decade or so. I just don't care to do it anymore. I don't fault the people that write them out and say this is my New Year's resolution. Hey, you have at it, but that's just not me. But I wanted to ask you and the listeners, from a New Year's resolution standpoint, okay, is this something that comes up each and every year for you from a creative space? Do you say, you know, this year I'm going to shoot 100 feature photographs, okay, or I'm going to shoot 4 feature films this year for my channel? You know, is that something that you come up with each and every year, or do you just go with the flow, or do you? Do you just set up a goal chart? Because I think there is a difference,
right, between
having resolutions and having goals. And I went and looked up the definitions, but go ahead. I just wanted to ask, what is your flow when it comes to every year around January?
Right.
You know, everybody has their resolutions. Is that something you do?
Well, you know what I do is around my birthday, I kind of do a mind map.
Okay.
And just to assess where I'm at right now and where I want to go, and just basically kind of work with a mind map. And I think resolutions or goals are extremely helpful if you are disciplined. But I think
boy, that's a big word,
right? But I have a friend in New York who I really admire, and she actually uses words. So she picks a word for the year and follows that word.
Oh,
yeah, it's actually really quite brilliant. So, for instance, yeah, so you kind of mark that in your calendar on the top, and just kind of write that word, and just what is that, and work towards that. So, for instance, respond. Not to just respond like we are responding to each other, but what can you do to respond within yourself to whatever that is that kind of moves you forward?
It's not going to mean the same thing every day.
Exactly right. Yeah. And so I thought it was brilliant. And then another friend actually, she came out with a word kind of that I really responded to as well, which is work.
Okay.
Not work, but work on yourself. Work. That has every day, like you said, has different kind of a meaning, and so it is like So, anyways, I thought it was really quite interesting. So I quite like that that word, and so
that's a very good idea.
I look at like create and dominate.
Yes.
I don't know. I thought that was a
well, in that because that is my
reminder,
my motto, if you will, and it's something that I live by, and it just I don't think it means the same thing to other people when they read it.
Right.
But this means a lot to me every single morning when I get up and slap the sticker that's on my wall that says it. You know.
Right. So my friend and I in college, we used to have a motto. And we used to wake up, or when we're doing homework, or when we're really in a big slump.
Yep.
It goes with righteous determination maintained up to the very end brings good fortune, and that absolutely brought us through the waves of school and creativity and so it's just kind of like if there's a way to work, I don't know. It was a great reminder.
I see. Yeah, I'm looking at our chat room, and somebody said in there, less charts and lists and more actions. And that's particularly the mindset that I have when it comes with it. And this right here, this create and dominate that you'll see on pretty much all of my tweets and things, or heck, even my shirt today, it's a reminder for me to actually do more action.
Right.
You know? And less talking about
yes,
it.
Exactly right.
and I always wonder, how do people get themselves squared away at the beginning of the year to be in a position to do more versus talking about it more? Now, granted, you can plan, and maybe that's part of a resolution is planning. No, that's more of goals. Goals are more planned oriented. If I pull up on Merriam-Webster dictionary, resolution, the act of determining, the act of analyzing a complex notion into simpler ones. It is a bunch of different definitions here. Something that something that's resolved, even broken down to how we see resolution on the screens and stuff. But the one that gets me was the act of determining and the act of answering or solving. Action. Okay. So now when you look at goals, the terminal point of a race, again, according to Merriam-Webster, an area or an object toward which players in the various games attempt to blah, blah, blah. You know, it's people try to use them interchangeably, and they're clearly two different things.
Right.
I have a goal of being the best content creator that I can be each and every year. But I have to resolve to get to that goal. Does that make sense?
So in business school, so they have goals as a singular thing, right?
Yeah.
But then you have your objectives to get to the goal.
Right.
And I think creatively, I know that I want to make some shifts this year. I don't know what those shifts are yet. But that is my goal, is to kind of figure out, well, I don't know, objectives. I don't know, we could get into semantics, but my goal is to kind of sort that out. What is the shift going to look like? You know, what is it? Am I going to go from one thing to another in regards to more video, or is it film, so it's just creatively, what direction do I need to go? Right. And this is what I want to respond to.
Gotcha. There's that word again.
Right. So it's just what in me is going to respond, or anyways, just kind of go in the direction that is maybe more meaningful, maybe more creative in regards to no boundaries, less boundaries. So I don't know. It's a very interesting question for me, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah,
I think resolutions or goal setting is very valuable. I think there is a need for me personally to remind myself every day what it is I want to go towards, or what can help me to kind of go in a different direction, or maybe continue in a certain direction.
Right.
So I find that extremely helpful, and really look forward to practicing that.
So listeners, reach back out to me. Let me know, how do you all go about resolutions versus goals? I'm curious because everybody's different. Again, I don't do grand New Year's resolutions. I just don't. I mean, granted, I did this morning before leaving the house and coming to the studio. I had a moment of meditation. I do that pretty much to start every single year. I'll stop and I'll have a particular moment of meditation just to find that center, because I believe I need to find that center before I can step forward, you know, and it just helps me to get my mind right and get me to where I can set the tone,
right,
if you will,
right.
You know, so I guess that's my little thing or whatever.
I do like what River B. Mike says here is from Ram Dass, be here now.
Be here now.
Yeah.
Yes. I love our chat room. It's so dadgum smart. And then another thing I wanted to throw out there. For me personally, I have a little yellow legal pad. You've seen the little yellow legal pad in here.
Yes, I have.
I write on those things every single day, and it's just a list. And I go through each morning. I'll write down things that I need to accomplish, and then I'll scratch them off.
Right.
And I found that helps give me some sort of direction, and it also gives me a sense of accomplishment. You know, so it's almost, I'm playing mind checkers with myself a little bit.
Yeah, well, need to.
You know, but it gives me a sense of accomplishment, and it keeps me driving, and it keeps me accountable, as Chickenhead 21 says in the chat room. Yeah, it keeps you accountable. And there are a lot of people that are going to fight having those lists. And my suggestion to you is your list is too large.
Yeah, keep it
simple. A lot of people get so wrapped up in putting everything down that they want to do in the day, and they only mark off 2, and they see the rest of those things are unmarked, and they go into a funk. So I suggest fix your list. You know, just be reasonable with yourself. Have your goals, have your objectives, but be reasonable. You don't. Not everybody's a Superman like Aunt Pruitt. I'm sorry, you know.
But also, I think be also flexible.
Right.
I mean, right. So for instance, New Year's Eve. My family's in New York, and I was thinking, okay, do I really want to go out? And I needed to have something to help me get out,
right?
Because I didn't want to, but I wanted to document the year coming in.
Okay.
I wanted to have that be the signature thing for the beat of the new year.
Huh.
And so I actually went out and photographed karaoke at a local bar here.
I saw that.
So much fun, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Like after you did, it's like, man, I totally could have missed this beautiful
right.
opportunity.
And I didn't want to feel the remorse of the next day. I didn't want to feel the remorse going into the new year. I wanted to feel that I started off on a good note, and I think in a way, every day is like that.
Yeah,
it's just not about the new year, but every day it feels that, can I go outside the envelope creatively and take the risk and have a little bit of faith.
Oh boy!
And go in that and just take and just go that direction and see what happens.
You're stepping on my toes, Wools, because I struggle with going outside of that box. I do, and that is something very common with content creators. We get comfortable with our own flow, our own workflow, and we get comfortable with our own style, if you will, and we'll have a hard time of just going over half a step to try something else. You know, there are people that, as small as saying, I don't want to shoot anything except color. You know, I only want to shoot color, because the challenge of going to black and white can be humbling. You know, because you and I both know from a technical standpoint, black and white photography forces you to nail your exposure. It forces you to tell a story, because the colors can hide a whole lot of stuff.
Right.
That
and black and white could hide a lot of stuff too.
But you when you don't have that color to fire off all of those neurons that the viewers are getting, it forces them to like really look at your story there in those black and white images. And a lot of people, they won't take that chance. I've been there. I'm still there.
So do you find yourself when you're photographing, do you look at what you're photographing in color or black and white? Sometimes I can see an image and I see I can see that in black and white.
It's most of the time I see it in black and white. No, I take that back. Most of the time I see my street photography shots in black and white, even though they don't always end up in black and white.
Right.
But it's just when I'm framing it up, most of the time it's a visualization in black and white. Landscapes, no. My landscapes are always some weird, vivid stuff that is not there. I know it's not there, but my mind sees it another way, and I usually try to reproduce it in post.
I know, isn't that right? Interesting. It's like you have this huge expectation, and all of a sudden you bring it back, and you're thinking, oh. Oops.
Yeah, and then I get into post, and I'm like, that ain't what I saw, so now I need to make this into what I saw before I click the shutter. So
I was actually just looking at Ansel Adams' landscape works. I have this book at home by him. And I was looking at it, and I was thinking how objective his work is. It's something you can see, but you can't see. The way he shoots it it makes it seem like, okay, I really need to look a little bit better.
Right.
And it just...
Well, that's the difference between an amateur or a hobbyist versus a seasoned professional. It's like you said, it's an objective to it.
But he made it an art. I mean, the whole idea of the way he actually printed, I mean, just brilliant. And I don't know, it's a good books to look at to kind of to learn a little bit.
But yeah, I was, again, my suggestion to the folks out there trying to get started on this year and get going on a good note, start out with this simple list of things in a day. I don't care if it's just 3 items. Don't overwhelm yourself with your goals and objectives, because this creative space can be very, very fickle. You're going to have days where you put the camera up to your eye and you see nothing. You're going to have days where you grab your stylus and you want to go and draw something, and you end up just drawing doodles of letters and nothing. It's going to be days of a funk, So if you want to give yourself a good start, make your list reasonable. 3 items, something like that. Today I am going to prospect at least 5 clients. Today I am going to sketch a coffee mug, or I'm going to shoot a photograph of a coffee mug. Just start small like that, because when you can start out smaller, those bigger challenges are going to be a little bit easier to tackle. You'll find yourself wanting to make larger challenges for yourself eventually, but just sort of work your way into it. And again, chat room, right on cue with me, don't start comparing yourselves to others
exactly right,
that are out there. Social media has really been instrumental in inspiring people as well as bringing people down.
Yes.
So don't give yourself a comparison to people that you assume are doing so well or doing so great with their art and things like that. Work on you,
right,
and just put the time in to work through your little list.
Everybody has struggles,
right? They all do.
Yeah. It might look good on the screen.
They all do. Miss Karen talked about it on the last episode of her times of struggling and just not having that creative flow, and then also battling with depression.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. You would never know it looking at her profiles.
No, everybody has their battles. Everybody has luggage.
Yeah.
The creative process works in mysterious ways.
It does.
And I think we just got to accept that we have our highs and lows. But if we just can continue on and have faith in what we're doing, I think we're good.
Go ahead.
There's an instructor of mine. His name was Frank Espada from San Francisco. Really amazing photographer, wonderful man. Passed away a few years ago. But he actually said, just photograph once a day. Just whatever happens, just photograph it. Just something.
And that's simple. That's not a unreasonable task to help, get yourself kickstarted, if you will. It's not unreasonable to, again, a coffee mug, your computer mouse, your car.
But it's one image.
That's
just one image. And then, of course you have your work, or you want to do something bigger, or essays or whatever, but just that one. And I find it interesting because you could actually almost see your mood. Right?
Yeah, there's that.
It's like you pick up the camera, oh no, do I have to really do this? And then you shoot something and then you think, oh, you look back on it thinking, I know what that was about. Dang. Very interesting.
It's pretty scary that how that works out sometimes.
Right.
It's pretty scary. But yeah, folks, let's continue on and just pushing through this year on a good note and a good start. One more thing I wanted to touch on is personal branding, because I know a lot of people are using this time of the year to start their creative businesses and just get the ball rolling. And we've talked about putting down a set of goals throughout the day, whether it's as small as saying I'm going to make 5 phone calls or as small as saying I'm going to photograph my mouse. All of that builds into your branding. So when you're starting your company, your art, your images or what have you, everybody can take photographs of a car. Just go out to any parking lot and take photographs. But how does Wools take that photograph? How does Aunt Pruitt take that photograph? That is part of your branding. I'd seen a video here recently from a site that I used to read quite a bit, and they talked about it where people confuse branding with logos.
Right.
And I never really thought about it that way, I guess because I had an understanding of branding for a while. But when you see the Nike swoosh, you see a Nike swoosh symbol. When you see Nike written on something, you see a logo. Those logos are letterings. But the brand behind Nike is totally different. The brand is that spirit of just do it.
Right.
So what are you doing from your own personal branding standpoint? For me, my personal brand says I need to get out there and create and dominate everything that's in front of me. That's because that's what I grew up with. That's how my mom, my coaches, that's just how they taught me. Whatever it is that's in front of you, you knock the hell out of it. That's it. You totally dominate it. If it's an article that needs to be written, you sit down and you write that article and you make that keyboard just wish you didn't sit down.
So what I'm responding to right now is your eyes.
Yes, see, and
I know, I'm just like how sincere you are with this. I'm thinking, oh boy.
But that's just my approach.
Right.
When I go out and do my street walks, or like what a couple of days ago, my son and I wanted to go do some sunset landscape. All I'm thinking was, man, that scene is not going to be ready for me.
Right.
That's my branding, and that's what people that have worked with me in the past, they know that's what they're going to get. So what it is that you're trying to portray to your potential clients, it says, you know what, this is my brand. This is who I am. What are your thoughts on branding?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think it depends on what industry you're in. I think for me in the visual industry, that it's, I think in a way in which we hinted on earlier, is like aesthetic aspect or the voice, kind of like what the, but it's a consistency towards one direction.
Well said.
I think, right?
Well
I'm not sure, but and I feel like I'm kind of finding my brand, but I think it continues to be fluid. And so and
that happens, because it takes time.
If there's a brand that I could actually really I'm a student. I'm a perpetual student.
Right.
And so, if I could continue in that process of learning.
That's not a bad brand.
Right.
Not a bad brand.
And to continue to have that be reflected into my work, then I think I think then I am on a good trajectory. But I think the brand is actually the overall package. How you discipline yourself, how you present yourself, how your cards look to the world. Kind of that whole aesthetic, I think is.
It's not just one thing.
It's a package.
Everything.
Yeah. And so, and it kind of goes towards the idea of, goal and, in a way, and the word that we're talking about earlier about the direction you want to go. And so I think that also helps with your branding. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree with you 100% because, again, a lot of people think it's just a logo. I'm staring at a tripod in front of us right now that's got cameras on it, and I see a Manfrotto tripod. Why? Because I see the logo. But that's not their brand.
Right.
Manfrotto's brand is bringing you great tripods that's going to stay steady, that's going to be light, that's going to be heavy when it needs to be heavy. That's their brand.
Right. It's well made.
Their product is a tripod. That's their product. But their brand is, we're an Italian company that spends a lot of meticulous time going over details on how this tripod should look and function and feel and help you be able to create the best content with your camera.
Right. And
so that's their brand.
I would imagine it's part of their mission statement to kind of build things very, very well and make sure it does not fall apart.
Right.
And so if it's reliable, that's a brand, right? Part of the brand.
Exactly. So you folks out there listening, that's something that you have to consider as you go into this endeavor of starting your creative businesses and or a side hustle. Even if it's just a side hustle, I highly recommend figuring out what your personal brand is or what your personal brand is. And you'll be able to figure it out because you're going to feel it. You're going to emote it. Wool's just laughed at me now because he could see it in my eyes.
Oh yeah, it was burning, man. I was being there's fire coming from your eyes, man.
I mean, but that's exactly how I feel. And that a lot of people don't quite get it, but for me personally, that came with all of the times growing up with my mom, single mom. My dad was in my life, but my mom is still the smartest woman I know. And watching her just go through day to day and watching her not be denied and seeing where she is now many years later. And then I go to the football field where football changed my life. And a lot of people don't like football. I get it. It's all of the head trauma. Yeah, I get it. But football changed my life, and it helped me to understand, what, somebody lines up across from you, you dominate them, you impose your will on them. And then also it showed me how to fight against adversity.
Right.
Because you get hit really hard.
Oh, yeah.
You get knocked down. Are you going to stay down? Are you going to get back up? And it changed, just little stuff like that just stuck. And I carried that with me on every single thing that I've done going forward. When I say it, I sit down back when I was writing for CBS Interactive and Tech Republic. When I sit down and pull up my laptop to start writing an article, that was my mindset was, man, I'm going to crush this article.
Right. But we can't do it by ourselves, I think was you're leading up to in football and whatever. I think for me, part of the branding or part of the who you are is actually the people who are in your life.
Right. You'll see it shape around you.
Exactly right. And so if you have a quest or whatever, I think you will attract individuals who will have you go towards that direction. And I had many great mentors in my life, and I will forever be grateful. And I think it's so important to don't be in a vacuum.
Right.
Try to be out there and
learn. But yeah, we'll get more into some branding in another episode because once you establish it, there's still the next step on promotion. There's still the next step on community. Community is the biggest thing that people overlook.
There's going towards what you like these days, or the sky or the nighttime. There's a nocturnal photography nocturnal group in San Francisco
for Astro.
Yeah, but it's really amazing.
Oh boy, so another community I need to find.
Yeah, Michael Kenna and those guys. It's really amazing. So,
but yeah, that's another part in the branding, and we'll talk about that in another episode of Focus on Photography.
Oh man, I love what the chat room's saying. Do or do not.
There is no try. That is correct, says Yoda.
We are always a student. That's why most professionals have a practice.
Oh, well said. Well said, Chicken Head. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Before we get out of here, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, if you will. Next week, I will be traveling to CES in Las Vegas with the chief twit, Mr. Leo Laporte. Boy, I'm a little bit nervous.
You're in good hands.
That man is on another level, and I'm looking forward to running around Las Vegas and CES with him and learning from him and picking his brain and just seeing how he flows. It's going to be fun. So the Focus on Photography show for next week, we're going to do a bit different on the recording. You're still going to have it in your podcatcher of choice right on time, so don't worry about that. But just stay tuned. We'll talk more about CES on that episode, and one more after that, because CES is pretty big from the photography standpoint, because Canon's there, Nikon's there, Sony's there, Panasonic's there, everybody's there, and I got all of these emails of people wanting to show me their stuff.
So for people who don't know, what's CES?
CES. You're a daggone pro. CES, Consumer Electronics Show, is held in Las Vegas every January. They now also have a Consumer Electronics Show in Shanghai, China, too. I believe that's done in the summer. But this is the biggest show of the year for the different manufacturers, the startups, because you get to present your product to several 100,000 potential buyers. People travel from all over the world to go to CES to sit down and make deals. This is where you're going to see, I can remember seeing HD TVs for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And how an HD TV at 1080p cost you about $15,000,
right?
But this is that event where you're going to see all of the forthcoming technology and products for the coming year, or some conceptual things that they're working on that you may not see until a decade from now. But it's really big, and everybody's going to be there because there's so many eyeballs coming there. Canon will be there. I have a meeting set up with Canon because, yes, I'm a Canon shooter. I'm not going to hide that. I have a meeting set up with Canon, but then I'd like to meet with Sony and Panasonic and all the other folks to see what are they working on. Sony just released that monster A7R4, but
can you bring back one of those?
I wish I could. But what else are they working on? And that's why you go to CES. That's why you read up on CES coverage, because a lot of times they're going to announce what they're working on, what's coming down the pike, and discounts and things. It's a wide variety of things, but it's big from the consumer standpoint. It gives them a warning on what to look for and what to expect.
Right.
So we're going to see more 8K TVs and things like that.
Sweet.
And, so I guess now we'll see more 8K TV being common in the house. Who knows?
Right.
Because I can remember when 4K was big, and the first time I saw 4K and thinking I'd never see that TV in my house.
Right.
And now you can get them everywhere. But
growing.
But that's CES, and I'll be there with Mr. Laporte. We'll be covering it for the network, and just going through and looking at any and everything. It's going to be a lot of big stuff. It's going to be
so much fun.
A lot of small things. A lot of people that are just out there for the first time, showing off their dream product that they've been working on.
I can see
you
kind of geeking out there.
It is, yeah. If you're a technologist, it is a dream because there's so much stuff there. Now, don't get me wrong; it's also a marathon. Mm-hmm. You better wear the best shoes that you have because it's a lot of walking, a lot of running. But I love it. I love it. I'm still one of the weirdos that still love it. Mr. Laporte is begrudgingly going back this year because he hasn't been in years. Because it'll wear you down. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work.
So bring your camera and have fun at night. Oh, yeah. There's going to be some amazing shots.
We're going to shoot some segments. I'm going to shoot some night photography. I've already figured out in my head I'm going to shoot some night photography down on Fremont Street with all of the light shows and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
There's some beautiful canyons in there, too. You got to go outside of the town, but it's about half an hour out.
I wish I could do that, but I won't have time to leave the city.
Man.
I won't have time. Everything is snap to. Let's go.
There you go.
But that's what's coming up for Focus on Photography. You won't see a change in your podcast catcher. Only Wools and I will see a change in our recording schedule. So, all right. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, man. Just have a great year.
Yes.
It's just dominate.
Create and dominate.
Yes. Sorry.
All right, folks. Thank you all so much for listening to us here at the LastPass Studios here with twit.tv. Man, it's so exciting to be able to say that. Just flows right off the tongue. Love it. I am Ant Pruitt. Find me on Twitter and Instagram with the handle of Ant_Pruitt. You can find my buddy, Mr. Michael Woolsey, at Hey Wools on the Instagrams and the Twitter. Please go check out his Instagram. It'll make you weep. It's so pretty.
Well, thank you so much. But
it's so daggum pretty.
Let's just have fun with it.
Be sure to follow Twit on the social medias. So you can go and check out Twit's TikTok platform. And it's called Twit Talk. Yeah, that was. I've stumbled across the Twit TikTok and seen some pretty interesting footage of myself that I didn't know existed. Go check that out. That's Twit on TikTok, and it's called Twit Talk. And you can also follow us on Instagram too. That's twit.tv on Instagram and on the Twitterverse. We'll be here each and every week on Thursday at about 9 a.m. Pacific time. Just go ahead and hit the subscribe option in your podcatcher of choice. Better yet, hit the share option too. Spread the word about FOP, good old Focus on Photography. Spread the word and let other folks know what you're listening to, and if you're enjoying it, leave all the little ratings and feedback. Love to hear from you. And just stay tuned for more content from us here, folks. We got some great guests lined up, and I can't wait to share them with you. Oh, my gosh, Wolves, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, folks, I'm Ant Pruitt. We're going to go ahead and get on up out of here. You all take care, create, and dominate. See you.
Have a good one.